My parents spent my entire childhood telling me my younger sister deserved everything because she needed them more. They gave her every opportunity, every dollar, every second chance. Then one ordinary Tuesday, I received a phone call that changed everything. My sister had secretly sold the family home and disappeared with every penny. Suddenly, the daughter they ignored for 20 years became the only person who could save them. Emma Walker was 8 years old when she learned that in her family, love wasn't shared equally. It was earned, and somehow she never seemed to earn enough. Her younger sister, Chloe, was the center of everything. When Chloe wanted a new bicycle, their parents bought the most expensive one in the store. When Emma asked for books for school, she was told, "We'll see next month." Emma never complained. She simply learned to expect less. At school, she worked harder than anyone else. Straight A's, perfect attendance. Teachers loved her. But every report card ended the same way. Her father barely looked at it before asking, "How did Chloe do?" If Chloe got average grades, the family celebrated because she had tried her best. When Emma came home with top marks, the response was always, "That's what we expect from you." There were no hugs, no celebrations, no pride, only expectations. By 16, Emma had a part-time job after school. She paid for her own clothes, school supplies, and even saved money for college. Meanwhile, Chloe never worked a single day. Their parents believed she should enjoy her youth. Emma watched quietly as every sacrifice she made became another privilege for her sister. Deep inside, she hoped one day her parents would finally see her. She had no idea. The house they loved so much would soon reveal the biggest betrayal their family had ever faced. By the time Emma turned 22, she had accepted something that broke her heart every single day. She wasn't her parents' favorite. She was simply their backup plan. Whenever something needed fixing, they called Emma. Whenever someone needed celebrating, they celebrated Chloe. After graduating from college with honors, Emma received an offer from a financial consulting firm nearly 3 hours away. It wasn't a glamorous job. The starting salary wasn't impressive, but it was enough to finally build a life where she didn't have to compete for her parents' attention. The night before she moved out, she packed her childhood bedroom alone. Not one family member offered to help. Downstairs, laughter echoed through the house. Chloe had invited friends over for another weekend party. Emma carried the last box to her car. Her mother walked outside. For one brief second, Emma thought maybe she had come to hug her goodbye. Instead, her mother handed her an old envelope. "Your father and I talked." Emma smiled hopefully. "We can't help you financially anymore." The smile slowly disappeared from Emma's face. "We need to focus on Chloe now." Emma looked toward the driveway. A brand new SUV sat there with a giant red bow. "Is that Chloe's?" Her mother nodded proudly. "She needs reliable transportation." Emma quietly glanced at her own 15-year-old sedan with nearly 200,000 miles on it. She had bought it herself. She had paid every repair bill herself. She forced a smile. "I'm happy for her." Her mother smiled with relief. "We knew you'd understand." Emma had heard those words her entire life. "You'll understand." She always did, because no one ever expected Chloe to understand. As the months passed, Emma worked harder than she ever had before. She rented a tiny apartment, cooked inexpensive meals, worked late nights, saved every extra dollar. Meanwhile, Chloe's social media told a completely different story. Luxury vacations, designer handbags, weekend shopping trips, new furniture, expensive restaurants. Every photo ended with the same caption. "Thanks, Mom and Dad." Emma never commented. She simply kept working. Then one evening, her father called unexpectedly. "Emma, we're updating some paperwork for the house. We're putting Chloe's name on the property with ours." Emma froze. "Why?" Her father answered without hesitation. "One day this house will belong to her anyway." Emma swallowed hard. "What if something goes wrong?" Her father laughed. "Your sister would never do anything to hurt this family." Emma wanted to argue. She wanted to warn him. But she had learned years ago. People only hear what they want to believe. So she simply replied, "I hope you're right, Dad." She hung up the phone with a strange feeling she couldn't explain. For the first time in her life, she wasn't worried about being left out. She was worried about the people who had chosen the wrong person to trust, and she had no idea. That decision was about to destroy everything they owned. My parents spent my entire childhood telling me my younger sister deserved everything because she needed them more. They gave her every opportunity, every dollar, every second chance. Then one ordinary Tuesday, I received a phone call that changed everything. My sister had secretly sold the family home and disappeared with every penny. Suddenly, the daughter they ignored for 20 years became the only person who could save them. Emma Walker was 8 years old when she learned that in her family, love wasn't shared equally. It was earned, and somehow she never seemed to earn enough. Her younger sister, Chloe, was the center of everything. When Chloe wanted a new bicycle, their parents bought the most expensive one in the store. When Emma asked for books for school, she was told, "We'll see next month." Emma never complained. She simply learned to expect less. At school, she worked harder than anyone else. Straight A's, perfect attendance. Teachers loved her. But every report card ended the same way. Her father barely looked at it before asking, "How did Chloe do?" If Chloe got average grades, the family celebrated because she had tried her best. When Emma came home with top marks, the response was always, "That's what we expect from you." There were no hugs, no celebrations, no pride, only expectations. By 16, Emma had a part-time job after school. She paid for her own clothes, school supplies, and even saved money for college. Meanwhile, Chloe never worked a single day. Their parents believed she should enjoy her youth. Emma watched quietly as every sacrifice she made became another privilege for her sister. Deep inside, she hoped one day.
3 years passed. Emma's life finally felt peaceful. She had earned a promotion at work, moved into a modest townhouse, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. She rarely spoke to her family. Not because she hated them, but because every conversation reminded her that she would always come second. Meanwhile, Chloe seemed to be living the perfect life. Every few weeks, another photo appeared online. Luxury vacations, designer clothes, weekend trips, expensive restaurants. Emma often wondered how her sister could afford such a lifestyle. Then one rainy Thursday afternoon, her phone rang. Dad. His voice didn't sound like the confident man she had known all her life. He sounded terrified. "Emma. Please answer me. Something horrible has happened." Emma's heart immediately sank. "Dad, what's wrong? Is Mom okay?" There was silence. Then she heard him crying. For the first time in her life. Her father was crying. "The house. It's gone." Emma frowned. "What do you mean it's gone?" "Chloe sold it." Emma froze. "What?" She sold our house." Emma couldn't process the words. Dad, that's impossible. You and Mom still own it. Her father let out a painful laugh. Not anymore. 3 years ago, we added Chloe's name to the deed. Last month she convinced us to sign some refinancing papers. She told us it was only paperwork for lower interest rates. His voice cracked. It wasn't. It was the final paperwork to sell the house. Emma slowly sat down. Her hands were shaking. Where's Chloe? Another long silence. We don't know. She transferred the money into her own account. Blocked our numbers. And disappeared. Emma closed her eyes. Inside. Everything felt strangely quiet. Her father continued speaking through tears. The new owners are moving in next week. Your mother and I have nowhere to go. Emma looked at the family photo sitting on her desk. The same family that had spent years choosing Chloe over her. The same parents who believed Emma would always understand. Now, the daughter they trusted had taken everything. And the daughter they ignored was the only one still answering the phone. Emma didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She simply ended the call and sat in silence, staring through the rain-soaked window of her office. For years, she had imagined 100 different versions of this moment. She had imagined her parents apologizing. She had imagined them realizing how unfairly they had treated her. She had imagined them finally understanding the pain they had caused. But never. Not once. Had she imagined it happening like this? Not after losing everything. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her mother. Emma hesitated before answering. The woman on the other end sounded nothing like the confident mother who had always defended every decision she made for Chloe. She sounded exhausted. Broken. Emma. There was another long pause before she whispered. We're staying in a motel. Emma closed her eyes. The image of her parents, who had lived in the same home for more than 30 years, sleeping in a tiny motel room felt almost impossible to believe. What happened after the sale? Emma asked quietly. Her mother took a shaky breath. The new owners gave us 2 weeks to leave. We thought Chloe would come back. We thought she'd explain everything. We kept telling ourselves there had to be some mistake. But she never answered. She blocked everyone. The lawyer said the sale was completely legal. Emma didn't interrupt. She simply listened. For the first time in her life. Her mother wasn't making excuses. She wasn't defending Chloe. She was simply telling the truth. We kept waiting for her to call. She never did. Emma looked at the framed photo on her desk. It had been taken years ago during Thanksgiving. Everyone was smiling. Looking at it now, she realized something. The family in that picture had never truly existed. It had only looked happy. Her mother continued. Your father blames himself. He hasn't slept. He keeps saying this is all his fault. Emma remembered the day her father proudly told her they were putting Chloe's name on the deed. Your sister would never hurt this family. Those words echoed through her mind again. This time. They sounded painfully different. Her mother finally asked the question she had been avoiding. Emma. Would you meet us? Emma remained silent. I don't know if I can fix this, she answered honestly. We're not asking you to fix it. We just. Her mother's voice cracked. We just want to see our daughter. The sentence hit Emma harder than she expected. For 28 years. She had wanted to hear those words. Not because her parents needed something. Not because everything had fallen apart. Simply because they loved her. Now. She couldn't tell whether those words came from love. Or desperation. After hanging up, Emma drove home without turning on the radio. Her thoughts refused to slow down. Halfway there, she passed the neighborhood where she'd grown up. Without thinking, she turned onto the familiar street. The house was already different. A moving truck sat in the driveway. Workers carried furniture inside while strangers laughed on the front lawn. The flower garden her grandmother had planted decades earlier had already been pulled out. Fresh landscaping materials covered the ground. The old wooden porch swing was gone. Everything that had once felt permanent had disappeared in a matter of days. Emma remained parked across the street. She wasn't mourning the house. She was mourning the family she had spent her entire life trying to belong to. As she prepared to leave, an elderly neighbor recognized her. "Emma?" She rolled down her window. Mrs. Harrison smiled sadly. "I heard what happened." Emma nodded quietly. The older woman sighed. "You know, I used to watch you leave for school every morning. You always waved. And every afternoon. You came home to an empty house because your parents were busy taking Chloe somewhere." Emma looked down. Mrs. Harrison continued softly. "I always wondered if they realized what they had." Emma felt tears fill her eyes. "They do now." The elderly woman nodded. "Sometimes people don't understand the value of something until it's the only thing they have left." Emma drove away with those words echoing in her mind. She still hadn't decided whether she could forgive them. But deep inside, she knew one thing. The next conversation would change every one of their lives forever. Emma spent the entire night awake. Sleep came in short, restless moments, interrupted by memories she had spent years trying to bury. Every painful moment returned. The science fair where no one came. The graduation with 2 empty seats. The day her parents bought Chloe a brand new SUV while telling Emma they couldn't afford to help her buy a small apartment. For years, those memories had made her feel unwanted. Now, they simply reminded her how much she had survived. The following morning, Emma agreed to meet her parents. Not at the motel. Not at her home. She chose a quiet coffee shop halfway between them. A neutral place. No family photographs. No childhood memories. No emotional advantage for anyone. When she walked inside, she almost didn't recognize them. Her father looked 10 years older. The confident man who once believed he had all the answers now sat with his shoulders slumped, staring into a cup of untouched coffee. Her mother looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. Neither of them smiled. Neither of them knew how to begin. Emma sat down without saying a word. The silence stretched for nearly a minute before her father finally spoke. "I've rehearsed this conversation 100 times." He looked down at his trembling hands. "But every apology sounds too small." Emma remained quiet. He continued. "When you were little, I thought being a good father meant giving the most attention to the child who needed it. I kept telling myself you'd be okay because you were responsible. I thought being strong meant you didn't need us." His voice broke. "I was wrong." Emma slowly looked into his eyes. For the first time, she didn't see pride. She saw regret. Her mother reached into her purse and placed a small photo album on the table. "I found this while packing." Emma opened it. Inside were dozens of old family pictures. Birthday parties. Christmas mornings. Summer vacations. Then she noticed something strange. In almost every picture, Chloe stood in the center. Emma was usually at the edge. Sometimes half hidden behind someone else. Sometimes barely visible. Her mother noticed her expression. "I never realized." Emma gently closed the album. "I did." The words landed like a punch. Neither parent could respond. Finally, Emma asked the question she had carried for nearly 20 years. When did you decide Chloe mattered more than me? Neither of them answered immediately. Her father rubbed his face before whispering. Emma looked at her hand but didn't take it. I can't change your childhood. I can't give you back the years we wasted. I can't erase what we did. She lowered her head. But if there's any way, I'd like to spend whatever time I have left being the mother I should have been. Emma felt tears filling her own eyes. She had imagined this apology so many times, she thought hearing it would instantly heal everything. Instead, it simply reminded her how much had been lost. After a long silence, she finally spoke. I don't hate either of you. Both parents looked up. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. They nodded. We know. Emma reached into her handbag and removed a folder. She placed it gently on the table. Inside were documents neither of her parents expected to see. It wasn't money. It wasn't a check. It was something that would determine whether they could ever rebuild their family. Or lose each other forever. Emma slowly pushed the folder across the table. Her parents exchanged nervous glances before opening it. Inside wasn't a loan agreement. It wasn't a check. It was a detailed financial recovery plan. Every debt was listed. Every overdue payment. Every remaining asset. Every possible solution. Emma had spent the previous night working until nearly 3 in the morning, studying every document her parents had sent. Her father looked up in disbelief. You did all this? Emma nodded. I've spent years helping struggling businesses avoid bankruptcy. I figured my own family deserved the same chance. Her mother covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. You'd still help us after everything? Emma leaned back in her chair. I'm willing to help people who are willing to change. She paused before continuing. But this isn't a rescue. It's a fresh start. I called them this morning. They're willing to pause the eviction process for 30 days if they see real progress. His eyes widened. You've already done that for us? Emma nodded. I opened the door. You'll have to walk through it. For the first time since they had arrived, hope appeared on both of their faces. Then Emma looked directly at her father. But before we go any further, I need complete honesty. No more protecting Chloe. No more pretending she did nothing wrong. No more sacrificing yourselves because you're afraid of upsetting her. Her father lowered his head. I promise. Emma wasn't finished. If she calls tomorrow asking for more money, what will you do? The question hung in the air. Months earlier, the answer would have been obvious. Today, neither parent answered immediately. Finally, her mother whispered, I'll tell her no. Emma looked at her carefully. Are you sure? A tear rolled down her mother's cheek. I spent years confusing love with enabling. I thought helping Chloe meant giving her everything she wanted. I never realized I was teaching her that actions had no consequences. She reached for her husband's hand. And in the process, we lost the daughter who never asked for anything. Emma felt something inside her begin to soften. Not because the pain had disappeared, but because, for the first time, her parents weren't making excuses. They were accepting responsibility. Her father suddenly reached into his jacket pocket. I have something for you. He carefully placed a small velvet box on the table. Emma frowned. What's this? Open it. Inside was a simple silver key. Emma looked at him, confused. It's the spare key to the house. She blinked. But we don't own the house anymore. I hoped one day I'd hand it to the daughter who deserved it. He gently closed her hand around the key. I know it's only a piece of metal. But I need you to know. You were always supposed to have a place in our family. I was just too blind to see it. Emma stared at the key resting in her palm. For years, she had wanted a key to that house. Now she understood. It had never been about the house. It had always been about belonging. She slowly closed her fingers around it. "I'll help you save your future." Her parents looked at her with hopeful eyes. "But understand this. I'm not doing it because we're family." She paused. "I'm doing it because this is the kind of person I chose to become." Her father nodded, tears streaming down his face. At that moment, Emma realized something. The greatest victory wasn't watching the people who hurt you lose everything. It was proving that they could never take away the kindness, strength, and dignity you had built for yourself. And for the first time in nearly 20 years, her parents finally understood the true value of the daughter they had almost lost forever. Emma left the coffee shop carrying nothing more than a silver key and a heart that felt strangely lighter. The problems hadn't disappeared. Her parents were still drowning in debt. The family home was still gone. Chloe was still missing. But something had finally changed. For the first time in nearly 30 years, everyone was telling the truth. Over the next several months, Emma worked beside her parents, not as the forgotten daughter they once overlooked, but as the experienced financial consultant she had become. She negotiated payment plans, helped them sell unnecessary possessions, found them, and this time, it was built on honesty instead of appearances. Her father accepted a part-time bookkeeping job. Her mother began working at the local library. Neither of them complained. They understood that rebuilding a life meant accepting responsibility for the choices that had broken it. One evening, nearly 8 months later, Emma received an unexpected phone call. It was Chloe. Emma stared at the screen before answering. For several seconds, neither sister spoke. Finally, Chloe whispered, "I heard Mom and Dad lost everything." "They didn't lose everything," Emma replied calmly. "They lost a house. They almost lost their family." Silence filled the line. Then Chloe began crying. "I made the biggest mistake of my life." Emma listened quietly. "I thought the money would solve everything. It didn't. My marriage ended. My friends disappeared. I've spent every day wishing I could undo what I did." Emma closed her eyes. Years earlier, she would have waited her whole life to hear those words. Now, they didn't bring satisfaction. Only sadness. Chloe finally asked, "Do you think Mom and Dad will ever forgive me?" Emma answered honestly, "I can't speak for them. But forgiveness starts with accepting responsibility. You have to stop running. You have to come home." A week later, Chloe returned. Not with excuses. Not with lawyers. Not asking for money. She came carrying a single suitcase and a written apology. She admitted everything. How greed had slowly replaced gratitude. How she had convinced herself that because her parents had always chosen her, she deserved everything they owned. Her parents cried as they listened. Not because they hated her, but because they finally understood the role they had played in creating that belief. That evening, the four of them shared dinner together for the first time in years. There were no expensive decorations. No luxury furniture. No giant dining room. Just a small wooden table inside a modest rental house. Halfway through dinner, Emma's father stood up holding an old family photograph. He looked at it for several seconds before quietly placing it in front of Emma. "This picture always bothered me." Emma looked down. It was taken 20 years earlier. Just like every other family picture. Emma stood near the edge. Almost hidden. Her father picked up a pen. Slowly. He drew a small heart beside Emma's smiling face. Then he looked at her with tears in his eyes. "You were never supposed to live on the outside of this family. I put you there. And that's the greatest regret of my life." Emma reached across the table and gently took his hand. The past can't be changed. She smiled softly. But the future still belongs to all of us. Months later, Emma invited her parents to see the home she had built with years of hard work. As they walked through the front door, her father noticed a small wooden frame hanging beside the entrance. Inside was a simple handwritten sentence. A home isn't the place where people choose favorites. It's the place where everyone belongs. He stood silently reading those words again and again. Then he turned toward Emma. Without saying anything, he hugged her. This time, it wasn't because he needed help. It wasn't because he had nowhere else to go. It was because he finally understood what being a father truly meant. As Emma looked around her home, she realized something she had spent her entire life searching for. Peace had never come from proving her parents wrong. It came from proving to herself that their opinion would never define her worth. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't watching those who hurt you lose everything. It's building a life so full of purpose, kindness, and quiet strength that one day, even the people who failed to love you properly finally learn what real love looks like.